What are insiders doing with their stock this year? And is it noteworthy? Is it something that should inform your investment decisions? Let's get into it coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. All right, so do insiders know a little bit more about what's going on in their business and therefore could make some decisions about their stock and their own investments before the rest of us? Sure, yes, sure, insider trading is real. And yes, we've got rules and legislation set up to hopefully prevent it from being this massive, pervasive, secretive thing where a whole bunch of people that know a bunch of stuff can act and move the market, and then the rest of us suffer the consequences. And I'm not going to get into whether I trust all those rules or whatever, but obviously the CEOs at the helm of their companies have a glean into things that you and I just can't, okay? And so yes, there's a lot of red tape, and they've got to disclose when they're going to sell. They can only sell during certain times, and all of that has to be made public. So what's the public record? What's the data suggesting right now? Well, obviously, we all know what Elon Musk has been doing. And I would say what he's done this year is probably the most well-known and arguably risky decisions as it comes to insider sales ever. I mean, this tweet right here where he went out and asked the Twitterverse, hey, what should I do? Should I sell stock? I mean, this might land him in jail, right? And so it's possible. And so, but anyway, this was infamous. And apparently there's some undercurrent saying, no, he actually was already planning on selling and knew that everyone would vote to say, yes, you should sell stock, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, apparently he's going to sell somewhere about $18 billion worth of stock this year. What does that mean? What's that mean about Tesla? What should investors be concerned and saying, well, geez, Elon Musk is taking a bunch of chips off the table. Does this mean that, we might be further away from Tesla really being a major car on the road, and what that means for SpaceX and other things? I don't know, but it is telling that what Elon Musk is doing, right, with his shares. Don't know if that should influence whether you invest, buy, or sell Tesla stock, but it is interesting. Now, collectively, though, that's just one example, and it's a fun one, and it's, right in your face, Elon Musk, what he's doing. But collectively, what are insiders doing? What are CEOs doing? Is it just normal, or are they trending in a certain direction? Guys, if you haven't looked, insiders are selling shares at significantly record levels. They are selling and dumping shares more than they ever have before. So Wall Street Journal did an article about this just a few weeks ago, and check it out. It's alarming. I've been seeing data like this, but it really is encapsulated right here. So company founders and leaders are unloading their stock at historic levels. Some have their first time selling in years. And is it because market valuations, if they look and these insiders are saying, wait a second, how in the world is the market paying this multiple for these shares? Yes, I'm a willing seller there, or is there more to it? Let's continue. Across the S&P 500, insiders have sold a record $63.5 billion in shares through November, a 50% increase from all of 2020. That is crazy. So I guess a couple of things. Are we to look at this and say, well, CEOs and insiders have a large amount of their compensation connected to stock and received in the form of stock, restricted shares, stock options, those sorts of things. So them selling shouldn't really be alarming. Okay, there might be that. Is it, well, the stock price is high and they're comfortable selling some of their shares at these levels, even though they're still optimistic about the future. Possibly there as well. Or are they looking, and we did a video about this recently as well, just at the current price to sales levels or current price to earnings levels? that the market has sort of priced in perfection out there into the future in order for the stock to stay this high or continue going up. And perfection is going to be very difficult to achieve, especially with inflation and the Fed possibly changing their decision, those sorts of things. And so willing to cash out now, and should that be a signal for all of us? I don't know. There's several things you could interpret from this data. I'm just going to tell you, it registered on at my level to a conscious level of, okay, well, what does this mean? For you, if this means, yep, if insiders are selling, I've got to be cautious as well. Let's talk through how you could be cautious, okay? I'm not going to tell you how to interpret this. To me, I would interpret this as just another on the T chart of, hey, there's lots of opportunity ahead for the markets to continue rising, or hey, we could experience some volatility. I would put this as yet another kind of factoid in the, hey, there might be a reason to be cautious ahead. Now, to be a successful investor, it's not about timing and avoiding the drops. It's not. It's about time in the market, having the right strategy that's connected to your overall financial plan. That is how you are a successful investor. But it is helpful to brace yourself if there's expectations for volatility and those sorts of things. So that's where I would put it. But for you, if you say, nope, this is reason for me to be cautious, let's sort of go through what action items you could take if you wanted to be cautious. Number one, you could say, okay, well, this is a reason maybe I should be pulling back how much stock I have in my own portfolio. So, okay, that's one option. Take a look at your financial plan. How much stock exposure, equity exposure should you have to achieve your financial goals? If that should be 70% and you're at 90%, yeah, I'd consider scaling that back. I would, okay? If it should be 60%, and you're currently at 60%, to me, I would be a little worried about scaling money out of that, even though if your financial plan says this, you're taking the right level of risk, we'll see. I would be nervous about saying, well, just based on this data, or I'm a little nervous, I'm going to take money out of stocks and add it to bonds. Bonds aren't offering much yield. They're not offering much upside right now. And yes, they have lower volatility than stocks, but I would argue, as opposed to just blindly saying, I've got to reduce my stock exposure and therefore I'm going to add to bonds, take a look at your financial plan, see how much risk you should be taking. Similarly, you could be looking and saying, okay, yep, I'm concerned by this. I'm going to cash some of my investments out of the stock market and put them in cash. I would also first look at your financial plan, see if you're taking the right level of risk. If you're not, make sure you're doing so. But if you have too much in stocks or too much in US stocks, something like that, I would be careful about going to cash, okay? If you time it perfect, then, and cash is your only safe haven, as it typically is during extreme market events, that's wonderful. It's hard. It is hard, if not impossible, to routinely time that, okay? Right now, with inflation being what it is and with yields on cash being so significantly low, the only way you win is if you move dollars out of the stock market into cash just to, time a drop perfectly, which again is nearly impossible. So that's the second way that, if you're feeling cautious, want to take some action, that's the second thing that you could do. Again, I would caution you there. The third and fourth, though, this is what I would consider. Number one, I would make sure that you're taking the right level of risk. I've already said that, but then consider not having just a buy and hold strategy. Consider having some buy and hold and some momentum. Now, momentum has really, really struggled this year as what's worked, and then stopped, and then started working again and then stopped, right? So momentum has been just where last year, 2020, it was perfect. This year, it's been almost the exact opposite, but still the premise of having a buy and hold diversified strategy connected with the momentum strategy, that's a way that you could say, well, if things, if this insider trading does capitulate at some point and the market drops, you could have some ability to momentum and to dynamically shift your asset allocation with some of that momentum strategy. So that's the third thing I'd consider. And then fourth, if you say, well, there might be a market drop coming, I want to protect myself from some of that, then some sort of structured product or a defined outcome or a hedged type strategy, we offer some of that here at KFG to limit how much you participate on the upside, but also then limit how much you participate on the downside. That might be that fourth way. If you're looking at this as insiders trading, I need to be careful and cautious with my overall investment approach. That's another option that you have. Work with your CFP. If any of those options are appealing to you, but they don't make sense for your overall financial plan, don't do them. You've got to work with your CFP, look at all 6 areas of your financial life and the goals you're trying to achieve and say, what would a prudent decision be? What would a wise decision be? Wisdom, financial wisdom, is looking at the range of good choices, which one is the best one, and the best one is the one that brings synergy to all 6 areas of your financial life. Work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team that can help you with that, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K. wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.